Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. The Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the community investment...
Good morning, and the time being 9 a.m, I declare open the general meeting of the 17th of November. We'll move straight into apologies, and I don't believe we have any apologies, Madam CEO. No, but we will note that Mayor Matt is attending the Australian Local Government Association conference, and congratulations to Mayor Matt, who was recently elected as the Vice President, so no doubt he'll be serving us all well there. Move on to messages of condolence. Are there any messages of condolence? No, we'll move on to the prior notification of MPIs and conflicts of interest. I think we've got a number of conflicts, starting with Councillor Trevor. Would you like to?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I have two conflicts of interest. The first declarable conflict of interest is I, Councillor Chris Trevor, advise that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item G/4.8 Community Investment Program Regional Enhancement Fund, Sport and Active Recreation Strategic Projects, as my legal practice, Chris Trevor and Associates, of which I am sole owner, has a commercial/sponsorship arrangement with Tannum Sands Rugby League Inc., whereby my firm pays for a sign on the leased area of land, the subject of their application. Notwithstanding the declarable conflict of interest, I propose to stay in the room and vote on the matter subject to the will of this council, as I do not believe that my conflict would lead me to make a decision that would be contrary to the public interest. We'll need a vote.
So can we get a mover as to whether or not, so we have to move that Councillor Trevor has a declarable interest first, is that correct? Yep. So can I get a mover? Councillor Churchill? What would you like to move, Councillor Churchill?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'd like to declare that he does have a declarable conflict of interest, if that's what you're after. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. And a seconder for that motion, seconding Councillor Chris Cameron. All those in favour? That's carried. That Councillor Trevor has a declarable conflict of interest, and now we need to a mover for whether or not Councillor Trevor can remain in the room. Moved Councillor Branthwaite. Do you wish to move that?
Yes, I do, Deputy Mayor. I wish to move that Councillor Trevor can remain in the room.
Mr. Chair, could we just have a reason for the move?
Oh, because I feel I feel that the declarable interest isn't such that it will affect his judgment in this matter.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Seconding Councillor Desley O'Grady. So move Councillor Branthwaite, seconding Councillor O'Grady. All those in favour? That's carried. Did you have any other conflicts, Councillor Trevor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My second conflict of interest is I, Councillor Chris Trevor, advise that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item G/4.14, tender 259-20 Gundoon Street refurbishment works, as I lease 62 Gundoon Street, Gladstone, for my legal practice, Chris Trevor and Associates, of which I am sole owner. Further, my close associate, Warrabale Proprietary Limited, as trustee for the C.A. Trevor Family Trust, is the owner of a unit in Rosebery Street. Both my wife and I are directors of Warrabale Proprietary Limited. Given my declarable interest, I will leave the room for item G/4.14 and will not participate in the decision.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. No need for a vote on that. Is that all your conflicts?
That's all of them this meeting. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Churchill, would you like to take it from here?
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, I, Councillor Glenn Churchill, advise that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item G 4.6 Community Investment Program, Sport and Active Recreation Community Projects as follows. So, my colleagues, if you could bear with me for a short moment while I go through this. And there's a number of them in actual fact. I'm a member, a percussionist and a volunteer tutor of the Gladstone Thistle Pipe Band, the pipes and drums, an applicant for funding. As part of my association with the Gladstone Thistle Pipe Band Incorporated, I do receive access to the community facility and their resources for teaching and performing. I again reiterate that I'm a volunteer. I'm also I'm the councillor appointed representative and chair of the Gladstone PCYC Advisory Committee. I'm also a Diamond Life member and volunteer of the Queensland Police Citizens Youth Welfare Association. My wife, Sue, is also a life member. Gladstone Gymnastics Club is an applicant for funding and is a long-time tenant of the Gladstone PCYC. C, my close association or associate with the family business, the shed company Gladstone, is owned by one of my sons, Tim Churchill, and his wife, our daughter-in-law, Lauren Churchill. It's owned, and further to that, it's managed and operated by the family, including our other son, Luke Churchill. The shed company Gladstone is a major sponsor and supporter and advertiser with a number of the applicants. To highlight some, the Gladstone Croquet Club, Gladstone Central Football Club Incorporated, and previously Clinton Football Club Incorporated. And perhaps there may be others as such, but each of those, each of whom are applicants for funding under this particular agenda item. Given my declarable interest, in particular my association with the Gladstone Thistle Pipe Band Incorporated, I am prepared to leave the room for item G 4.6 and I will not participate in the decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that one.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Was that, you don't need to declare any other conflicts?
Yeah, I do in actual fact, yeah, but that's 4.6. In relation to 4.7, I, Councillor Glenn Churchill, advise that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item G 4.7, Community Investment Program, Community Celebration Fund, Ignite and Impact. To make everyone aware, I am a member of a rock band, Valhalla, who has an expression of interest to offer their services to perform at the 2021 Blues, Roots and Rock Festival, along with many, many others with expressions of interest. In light of saying that, notwithstanding the declarable conflict of interest, there's been no decision made in relation to any of the EOIs or the programs. I propose to stay in the room and vote on the matter subject to the will of Council, as I do not believe that my conflict would lead me to make a decision that would be contrary to the best interests of the public. That's all I have, so I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Churchill. So we need to move first that there either is or isn't a declarable conflict of interest there. Would anyone like to move? I'm happy to move that there is a declarable interest due to Councillor Churchill's reasoning. Can we get a seconder? Seconding Councillor Branthwaite. All those in favour? That is carried. Now, can we have a mover as to whether or not Councillor Churchill stay in the room?
I'm happy to move, Deputy Mayor, that he stay in the room on the basis that him remaining in the room would not be contrary to the public interest.
Thank you. Moved Councillor Trevor, seconded Councillor Branthwaite. All those in favour? That's carried.
Mr Deputy Mayor, can I get some clarification on item G.4.14? I believe that part of Gundoon Street is down further than where I own a business, which is up here at 100 Gundoon Street. I don't think I have any conflict in that regard. Can I have some clarification on that, please?
Councillor Hanson, that's really a matter for you to determine as to whether you feel that your personal interests could lead you to make a decision that was contrary to the public interest.
No, I don't believe that's the case, but my colleagues can decide that if they wish.
So, do you wish to declare a conflict there, Councillor Hanson, or not?
I have a declarable conflict of interest because I do own a business in Gundoon Street.
All right. Can I get a mover as to whether or not Councillor Hanson has a declarable conflict of interest? Move, Councillor Muscat.
Thank you. I would like to move that Councillor Hanson does not have a declarable conflict. Thank you.
Just prior to that decision-making process, Deputy Mayor, can we just get some clarification on where the tender is actually proposed to be? My understanding was that it was to be between Rosebery and William as part of the revitalisation, and if it's between Rosebery and William, Rick, that'd probably put you right smack bang in the middle of it.
Could we please have some confirmation from Christy or Cherie online on the scope of that project, please?
My apologies, Mr Deputy Mayor. I should have realised this before the meeting started.
That's all right. As long as we get through it, we've got to make sure we're doing everything right, which we always do, Councillor Hanson. Do we have any commentary?
In the absence of any advice online, I'm reasonably confident, not having looked at the documents immediately before the meeting, that it does encapsulate the area that Councillor Trevor's advised of. In the absence of confirmation, I suggest that's erring on the side of caution.
Then I'm happy to leave the meeting at that stage without any decisions. So happy to depart when that decision's been made, Mr Deputy Mayor.
So you're, just for the record, you're declaring a declarable conflict of interest, and for the reasons set out, you'll leave the room.
I will leave the room, yes.
During that item. All right, that's fine. We don't need to vote on that. Are there any other conflicts?
Before we go any further, just on a good governance process, Councillor Muscat did move a motion, so appropriately seek your deliberations as chair to withdraw.
I'm happy to withdraw the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Muscat, the motion's withdrawn due to Councillor Hanson declaring he'll leave the room. Councillor O'Grady.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I, Councillor Desley O'Grady, advise that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item G 4.7, Community Investment Program, Community Celebration Fund, Ignite and Impact. I am the patron of the Boyne-Burnett Inland Rail Trail and applicant for the funding, and I have had lengthy discussions with the President and the BERT regarding the running of the Pedal in the Park Family Adventure Day. Notwithstanding the declarable conflict of interest, I propose to stay in the room and vote on the matter subject to will of the Council, and I do not believe that my conflict would lead me to make a decision that would be contrary to the public interest.
Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. Can we get a mover for whether or not Councillor O'Grady has a...
Yeah, Mr Chair, I'll move that there's a declarable conflict of interest in this, but in moving the motion, I'd just like to get a point of clarification again with the change of the legislation. In essence, and again, prior to the change of legislation that occurred in early October, Councillor O'Grady, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had left the room previously in relation to the Boyne Rail Trail. So I'm trying to deal with what happened in the past and now dealing with the new legislation. Being patron of an organisation does not compel you to leave deliberations and discussions. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. But prior to that, there was a Councillor Goodluck put forward that I had no significant interest in anybody else. So, but because I had discussions with the president of the club regarding this event, I just thought I would have a declarable conflict of interest.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm satisfied with that.
Just for this.
And I'm satisfied with that the patron is not encompassed in the legislation. Thank you. Happy to move.
So just to confirm, move that there is a declarable conflict. Yep, and can we get a seconder for that motion? Seconding Councillor Muscat. All those in favour? That's carried. And now can we get a mover for whether or not Councillor O'Grady can remain in the room for that matter?
Excuse me, Mr Chair, I'm just clarifying, this is item 4.7 that we're addressing now, is that correct? Councillor Churchill, did you declare a conflict of interest in this one previously? Was it 4.7? Sorry, I'm just trying to follow along. Tanya, help me if I'm wrong here. Just if councillors do have a conflict in a matter, whether they're staying or not, they can't then vote on the conflicts of others in relation to that matter. Is that correct? We're on the same item, Tanya?
That's correct, Lisa.
Yes.
Only eligible councillors can vote on whether or not someone else has a conflict.
Yes.
So you just have to be mindful of, even if you are declaring your conflict in the future, it hasn't been decided yet, I would recommend that you don't participate in that decision unless it's been determined otherwise.
Okay, I understand that. I mean, we're on a journey here with this legislation, so I'm prepared to withdraw that motion and leave it in the capable hands of the chair. But can I just get another point of clarification then? You're indicating that even though it doesn't matter what the decision is, if you declare any declarable conflict of interest, no matter what, you can't participate in either moving, seconding, or even voting in relation to the motion. Is that correct?
If it's determined by council, or you've made a declaration and elected to leave the room, or if it's determined by council that you do have a conflict, then that makes you ineligible to determine other councillors' conflicts under the legislation.
Okay, then so my final point of clarification, and thank you, Madam CEO, I do appreciate your due diligence on this, because I don't think it only affects me, it affects others around the table, is in getting an understanding, is that it only relevant to the particular agenda item, or is it relevant to the motion of the declaration of conflicts of interest?
My understanding, it's only relevant to determining whether other councillors are conflicted on the same matter. It doesn't mean you can't vote on the matter when it comes up, but in determining other conflicted councillors, you can't participate. It sounds odd, but that's how the legislation's worded. So it's only non-conflicted councillors that can determine whether other councillors have a conflict on that matter. You are then fine to go on and vote because your colleagues have decided you can remain in the room.
No, look, I understand that, so I'm prepared to withdraw my motion and then I'll leave it in the capable hands of the chair. But again, you know, by your terminology, it may sound odd. I think it's more an understanding of determining what is the right and the correct procedure under the legislation. I'm sure it'll be tested. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Given that we have to move that motion, so that was the motion for Councillor O'Grady's, whether or not Councillor O'Grady has a conflict. Councillor Trevor, did you wish to?
I'm just seeking to clarify what item we're talking about, because I've got a conflict with 4.7. Right. Okay. I'm out on 4.8. I just had a point of clarification in relation to voting, where we're in a situation. Say we were talking about item 4.8, for which I've declared a conflict of interest, and it's not appropriate for me to vote in the event of, say, Councillor Hanson declaring a conflict of interest. If I sit mute and say nothing, and not put my hand up, and then in the ordinary course, I would be deemed to have not supported the motion. So how do I get it recorded that, excuse me, Deputy Mayor, I don't wish to vote in this matter? Is that what I do? Because otherwise, I'm recorded as being not supporting the motion.
What we actually do is record you as not eligible to vote on the matter in the minutes. So in the minutes, when we record who votes, we have a for and against and a not eligible, and you would be marked as not eligible to participate in that vote.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's great.
Yeah, okay then. So just in understanding, thanks, with your permission, Mr Chair, is that in withdrawing that motion, there was a seconder for the motion as well, so you may just need to encapsulate that. And then at the same time, can I just at this stage indicate that in any further future declarations of declarable interest, that we should then also add the wording in there that we become ineligible for being involved in the decision. So it is recorded in the minutes rather than, and I'm not suggesting it would occur, but I wouldn't like to think that there'd be an oversight that someone would be missed in not voting if you're ineligible. That's just my point of requirement in declaring that you become ineligible for any other declarations that relate to that particular agenda item.
Tanya will record that in the minutes. I was just keeping track as we were going through as the declarations were made. That's the only reason I picked up that one had been declared for that item, because they're sort of spread nicely around today. There aren't a lot on the same item, but it is a bit tricky, and it only arises if there is another councillor with a position to be determined. Tanya, I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but we'll definitely record that you're not an eligible voter.
The only other thing that I'll add is we're always looking for new ways to make this easier for the meeting to progress efficiently. So we'll try and address that, but that just really goes to the point of trying to identify those conflicts early so that we're all prepared at the start of the meeting and can do it. Not that that's always possible.
Thank you, and obviously this legislation's only come in the last month, so we're still working through all the technicalities, and we've had a number of sessions, and all of this conversation is healthy and making sure that the integrity of our decision making here is to the highest standard. So we'll back to G. Councillor Desley O'Grady's declarable conflict of interest in item G/4.7. We require a mover as to whether or not Councillor O'Grady has a declarable conflict of interest. Someone who is not Councillor Churchill.
I'll second. I have a concern though.
I will be happy to move that Councillor O'Grady has a declarable conflict of interest.
I do have a concern though with regard this item and Councillor O'Grady because we're here to make sure that we protect other people when we think that there's conflict of interest there. And I think there is a conflict of interest because even though Councillor O'Grady is now only patron, and she's also, but she is a very good supporter of the project, and I think that to me shows some sort of conflict of interest in the item. So
that's why there will be a vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll second the motion. Thank you.
And just to confirm, Councillor Muscat, declaring that there is a declarable conflict for the reasons that Councillor O'Grady's set out, seconded by Councillor Hanson. All those in favour? That's carried. And now, can we get a mover for whether or not Councillor O'Grady should remain in the room?
Thank you. I would like to move that Councillor O'Grady does not stay in the room for the deliberations on this item. And that's pretty well similar to what Councillor Hanson mentioned before. I think Councillor O'Grady is doing a great job at what she's doing, and I don't think it's worth her, I guess, being in a situation in which she will be at risk of being, well, I guess, targeted by people thinking that she's doing something that is contrary to the public interest. So she is a very strong spokesperson for the project, and she appears in a lot of the promotions and the advocacy. So I just think it'll be in the interest of protecting my fellow councillors. I think she will be best not staying in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat.
Second that.
Seconded by Councillor Hanson. Before I put the motion, if anyone else has got any comments that you'd like to raise, I would just like to say that I agree with Councillor Muscat in the fact that Councillor O'Grady has been a passionate advocate of this project, But I also believe that Councillor O'Grady has been a passionate advocate of this project because she believes it's in the best interest of our community, and it's the role of each and every councillor around this table, in my view, is to advocate on behalf of our community on many aspects, and being a passionate supporter of a particular project. Most of, if not every one of those projects that we all support and are involved in, and in any different number of capacities, is because we think that it's beneficial for our community at large. So I would, in my view, I think Councillor O'Grady would be best served to remain in the room. But I just thought I'd make that comment before we go. Is there any other councillors would like to comment? Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor O'Grady, I'm just keen to seek some advice from you as to whether you assisted anybody in relation to preparation of their submission for funding in this particular matter.
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. Yes, I did. I had conversation with the President about questions and answers that were throughout the document. So, yes, I did.
I guess at the end of the day, from my perspective, I can't see any breach, technically probably there isn't a conflict of interest. We always have to take into consideration whether the issue and our subsequent decision as to what we do or don't do depends on the pub test and the punters out there in relation to what they perceive to be a conflict or not. But in the circumstances, I'm happy to support that Councillor Desley O'Grady does not have a conflict.
Thank you.
Sorry that she remained in the room, and that it wouldn't be contrary to the public interest in relation thereto.
So we've got a mover and a seconder in Councillor Muscat and second in Councillor Hanson that Councillor O'Grady leave the room for this item. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The against have it. Sorry, Councillor Churchill, were you not voting on this?
Can we please note that I'd been silent on this matter?
Councillor Churchill.
I continue to remain silent, but can it be noted in the minutes that I'm ineligible?
Yep, Councillor Churchill ineligible to vote. So the motion was lost, I think is the correct term, is that right? So we need a new motion, councillors, that Councillor O'Grady be able to remain in the room, and the reasoning.
I'm happy to move that Councillor O'Grady remain in the room on the basis that it wouldn't be contrary to the public interest.
Thank you. That's moved Councillor Trevor, seconded Councillor Branthwaite. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Is there any other conflicts, councillors, before we move on? No. So we will move on to item G/1, which is the mayoral statement of current issues. And given that the mayor is not in attendance today, we obviously won't have a mayoral statement. So item G/2, the confirmation of minutes. Is that moved Councillor Trevor, seconded Councillor Hanson?
Special meeting, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Yes, sorry, item G/2.1, sorry, confirmation of special meeting minutes for the 2nd of November 2020. So that's moved Councillor Trevor, seconded Councillor Hanson. All those in favour? That's carried. And then item G/2.2, the confirmation of general meeting minutes for the 3rd of November. Moved Councillor Trevor, seconded Councillor Churchill. All those in favour? That's carried. I don't believe we have any deputations today, so we'll move on to item G/4.1, the monthly financial reports for the period ending 31st October 2020, and hand over to the General Manager for Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Morning, councillors. This item is our monthly financial statements through to the end of October 2020. And just going through those, there's probably two items that I'd like to call out for concern and probably two areas of noting. The areas of concern that we are tracking behind or would I give us believe that I think we will have some overruns in these spaces with respect to our interest received from investments. So you'll note they're currently as at the end of October, we're only sitting at 8% of budget. So based on our current returns from investment, and it just doesn't look like we are going to realise what was envisaged in this space. There is an additional item in the agenda that will look at how we might optimise some returns that we can get in this space, but the interest received from investments due to the falling interest rates in the economy in general has certainly led to a decline there. The other item is with respect to our employee benefits. So you'll note with respect to our employee benefits, it's sitting right on 33%, which is right on year to date for the year. It is sitting, when we look at it, marginally over. If you're looking on a pro rata basis, looking at our 26 pay periods, and that's because we budgeted on a 7.5% vacancy rate for the year. Currently, we're realising around about 4.5%. So that is having an impact, and I would expect that during the forecast that it will be looking to be taken up during the November reporting cycle, that we will see a movement in this space. Just for your noting is the capital works progress. So currently the forecast there is that we are looking at spending a little bit over our budget figure there of 64.8 at 66.9. So although our actual spend is in and around 23% inclusive of accruals through to the end of October. So we are a little bit behind pro rata, but in line with the S curve, so the spend curve for the capital projects, we are on track in that space. So the team is keeping a very watchful eye on that. Further, with respect to outstanding rates, we're sitting at 15.2% as of outstandings at the end of October. So this is their first chance or opportunity to report on the 2020-21 financial year outstanding rates with respect to the levy that was issued, given that the discount period expired in October. So that is a little bit behind, more favourable compared to the previous financial year. However, I would note that the same time last year, the discount period was still open. So that does, whilst it looks favourable on the face of it, I will expect that we will see over the course of the year, that outstanding rates to trend slightly higher than the previous year. So of that 27 million in outstanding rates, you'll see that there's a lot under management. So 3.64 million of that is under management through payment arrangements. And when we looked at our outstanding rates in our annual report, that's further coming up in the agenda, it'll trend down towards that $12 million, which is what our outstanding rates were at the end of the year. So it is normal for us to recover that during the period. But it certainly is with that, the trend and current economic conditions is something that we'll be monitoring closely to see whether there's any adverse impacts in that space. But happy to take any additional questions.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for the General Manager?
Thanks,
Councillor
Deputy
Trevor.
Mayor. I woke up to the headlines in the Gladstone Observer this morning screaming at me saying that we were in debt to the tune of $27.1 million for outstanding rates. Mark, can we assure the public that we are not at fiscal risk and everything is under control, please? Because that headline would have been frightening to many, let alone a councillor of some years standing. But if you could confirm, please, in the public interest that everything is under control and we're not weak on any flanks, because my reading of all of the report, as opposed to extracting part of it, is such that we are in an extremely strong position generally. and that nothing is out of the norm in relation to our balance sheet.
So in terms of recovery of that outstanding rate, it's certainly something we will stay on top of, but it's certainly for this time of year, as you'll see that comparative graph, we are actually under where we were this time last year. Yeah, so in terms of a percentage of that, we're at 15.2%. Same time last year, we were at 16.9. So we are actually, for this time of year, actually more favourable than the previous financial year. It is normal for us to recover rates through the year. So we haven't started any of our recovery processes. We haven't had those. We're only just starting to follow up and have those conversations with ratepayers who may have missed the discount period. And as we enter into those conversations and more payment arrangements are entered into, and also there's many people and ratepayers that aren't on formal payment arrangements but just pay their rates through a monthly direct debit. So as those repayments are made through the financial year, we'll see that outstanding rates figure decline. So where we ended up at the end of 30 June 2020 was 11.9 million, so around about 7% of our general rate levy was outstanding. So that'll be the figure that I'm looking to see is how we end up compared to the previous financial year.
So in other words, we're travelling quite well.
We're travelling okay at the moment, yes.
Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Councillor Khan. There was one matter, and maybe today is not necessarily the discussion point. It's about water, and you've indicated in your report there the bulk water purchases for October were not processed at the time the report was prepared. So I suppose my question to you at this stage is: are you comfortable and/or confident that there's nothing likely to occur between now and perhaps our next budget next year that may trigger impacts, changes, increase, or a decrease in the cost of water, our negotiated costs of water?
So what we're getting levied for water is in line with the QCA pricing decision that was applied by the Water Board. So it certainly was above budget. So I think that you will see both sides of the equation be taken up in the forecast that will come before you in November in this space. So what you're looking at here is 18.7 million. I expect that both the cost of water will increase, but then also under your revenue statement there'll be an opportunity to recover that. So I believe there's a paper coming towards you on the 1st of December to discuss that matter.
Okay, so we'll anticipate that paper 1st of December, and then obviously in the scheme of things from a larger level, obviously is, associated costs, and again, it's not relevant to the agenda, but it is relevant to the price of water when we start to look at the issues of Rookwood Weir and other associated infrastructure for the future. So look forward to that report on the 1st of December. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, Councillor Churchill. Any other questions, councillors? No, sorry, Councillor Muscat. Oh, you're happy to move? I did have just a query, Mark. The asset sustainability ratio. I note that we're still forecast to reach about 140%, I think, next year, which I'm not sure. But our trend line, and I note the commentary in the report that it says that the renewal projects are forecast to be undertaken later in the year, but that trending certainly isn't conducive to the forecast position where we're hoping to be in 2021. Are we on track to complete those renewal projects as per our expectation?
So budget this year is 57.9 in this space. So that's what in terms of that replacement work. So the asset sustainability ratio is your renewal spend divided by your depreciation. So we're looking at spending in and around $24 million is what that equates to on renewals this financial year. So, and as I said, that expenditure is likely to come forward later in this year. Your future years are dependent very much on the forecast we've got coming out of our plans, and given that this year's spend and program as a whole, there's been a significant new investment focus. then renewals are looking at taking greater priority in 21-22, and that's why you see that higher peak in that time.
Yep, and so as far as our forecast position by the end of this financial year, we're well on track to complete that renewal projects.
Yeah, as of our program, we're looking at completing everything we said we're going to do at this point in time. So that would see us hitting that 57.9 mark.
Thank you. No other questions, councillors? Can we, Councillor Muscat, I think you wanted to move. Seconded, Councillor Trevor. Excuse me. All those in favour? That's carried. Move on to item G/4.2, the financial non-current asset accounting policy. Back over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. This item is a regular review of a policy that has expired and gone through its renewal process. So that this is with respect to our non-current asset thresholds. So this is where we spend money on new assets and infrastructure, and we just put a threshold in place as to make sure that if it is over that dollar spend, that's when we look at considering capitalising that asset, recognising that it meets the criteria for recognition of an asset, that is the value that we're going to receive as a community from that investment is going to last beyond 12 months. So the threshold there is set at different values for different types of assets, but you know, our general rule for infrastructure assets is $10,000. However, we do have some other minor classes there for lower grade plant and equipment of $5,000, and for our major plant, that is essentially our what we would call our yellow plant, our graders, our loaders, it's $350,000.
Thank you. Any questions to the General Manager? No. Moved, Councillor Churchill. Seconded, Councillor O'Grady. All those in favour? That's carried. Item G/4.3, proposed amendments to the P2017-17 investment policy. Sorry, did I? Over to you,
Yep.
Mark, again.
Councillors, this item is looking at making some changes to our adopted investment policy. So this was scheduled for review in July to December 2021, but we have brought forward based on the current economic conditions as intimated earlier during discussions with the financial report. Our investment returns are marginal at best at the moment with respect to our cash offerings, and our investment policy was very conservative. What we're looking at putting in place and recommending for you is a movement in some of those investment limits with not necessarily the big four banks, but generally the tier below. Previously, we were limited in that space to a maximum of 30% of our portfolio, and in particularly then to the A plus to A's, only a $5 million investment limit. Generally, we're finding we are getting some marginally better returns from those institutions, so we're proposing to increase our investment limits there accordingly, just to try and get a little bit better return on our interest investment. It's not going to recover our full budget in that space, but we are hopeful that we can recover some of the losses that we're seeing currently. And as I say, the interest rates are subject to change there based on Reserve Bank decisions, and then the banks will follow. But certainly we think that we could recover with this policy, certainly up to about $500,000 of the loss that we are currently projecting to see.
Thank you, Mark.
Through the chair, Mark, is that the attachment 403.1? Is that's the current policy? We usually see.
Yep.
We usually see
that's the
your changes or track changes in the policy.
That is the current policy, yes.
So,
So the policy, the amendment is just that in that counterparty table, and proposed in that.
okay,
in that table. So
it's
it's
just
really
that's
just
all
it's
the
just
amendment
adjusting. It's adjusting those two lines. So our overall investment strategy is limited by our essentially the Statutory Bodies Financial Arrangements Act. You know, we can only really invest in term deposits. That's about as risky as we get. and this just looks at the institutions in which we can then invest.
Councillor Muscat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Thanks, Mark. I just wanted to clarify. So we got this table here that we have the current policy and then the proposed changes. So does that mean that only the top bank is going to go up to 100? Well, I'm just trying to work out the changes. So 160. So or is it all of those ones in that group?
So essentially, the proposal is that your AAAs to AAs, they will go to a maximum of 50% for an individual, and no limit overall with respect to the portfolio. Then A pluses to A's going to a maximum of 40%, whereas previously there was a maximum of $5 million.
Yeah,
so it's moving it's moving those two.
Okay, so the top two groups.
Yep.
Okay. I was just also wanting to, I guess, make a comment and ask you if this was ever thought of in as we review this policy. I'm just going to try to bring the policy up, investment policy. So I guess in the last few years we've seen a bit of a move from people that normally invest or people doing their normal banking into a space of more of a social and ethical investment, I guess, attitude. Is there something like that? I know we actually in the policy we have things that says that we will avoid any transactions that might harm confidence in council, or those type of statements in the policy. But has there ever been thought at officers level to incorporate some kind of, I don't know, maybe just some minimum of an understanding of where we're actually investing, and if we can direct some of the investment into more of a social and ethical, institution?
So this what we're looking to in terms of investments, we're looking at making sure our investments are secured and make sure we're getting that return to council of our investment. I don't want to sit before you and say that I've recommended change to investment to essentially, and a bank goes pear-shaped, and we're sitting here talking about the loss of that investment. So we're looking at particularly those below A minus, which is generally where some of those other institutions belong. We sit at a maximum of $2 million for those, and focus on. We do spread that around. Our focus has been on trying to either support our local community banks, but also look at trying to maximise return.
I'm not doubting the fact that we obviously want to ensure that we maximise our returns. However, there is a number of banks that will, I guess, rank more ethical or socially responsible than others. And definitely I see some of those banks that rate higher in the social and ethical banking scale. There are some of those are actually local banks as well.
It isn't a lens we've put over it, but it's certainly what we have tried to do certainly is support our local community banks, your local Bendigo banks and the like, with those community banks, and putting those to those maximums where we can.
But we don't put that in the policy, though.
That isn't the policy. It's captured by the rating. It's not specifically called out.
Well, I mean, if I was to look at this policy, I will add something in there that will ensure that we actually put that lens over it when we invest. But that's just my point of view. Right. Thank you.
And to be honest, I haven't done any. The team hasn't done analysis over what that might mean from a return perspective.
Yeah.
But,
we could
do that and bring that back for an information session.
I mean, if my fellow councillors agree with that, I will love for that to happen.
Yes, I agree, councillor. Also, would like to move the recommendation as well.
Councillor Hanson, seconding Councillor Branthwaite. Councillor Churchill did.
Yeah, thanks for that. Just a brief one more than anything. To you, General Manager, the attachment that we had, it's a simple question. The banks and current ratings, that's all public knowledge, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So just making sure that that we're not disclosing anything. I was a bit surprised by some of it, and I suppose a segue from where Councillor Muscat was coming from. We don't need to be involved in the speculative area, but because of the current volatility that's occurring out there, and obviously the Royal Commission into the banking industry, I would imagine, give me some sense of confidence today that you've got your finger on the pulse on what's happening, because it seems to be even the volatility of the markets themselves, it seems to be a week by week, day by day circumstance. I'm comforted with the policy, but if there is any major movement, and I'm surprised on that list that there's some that aren't on the list, but do you need to bring that back to this council at all?
No, if we're looking at really those, and that's essentially the reasoning for putting it in there by rating, is to not bring individual banks to you, but look if we can satisfy that criteria, that's the level of risk we're taking, and that risk has been validated and verified by those ratings agencies, your Standard & Poor's and the like. That's where we go. We haven't necessarily called out individual banks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. My question mark is a simple one, and it's this. What impact will that reduction in interest rate, interest return have on our budget bottom line?
If we were to do nothing this year, it's in the order of around $750,000. So we're hopeful to recover some of that by that change. We're not going to recover all of it, but really is actually subject to daily movements. But we'll certainly this will go some way, but not the entire way.
And given the Reserve Bank Governor has indicated to the general public at large that interest rates are likely to remain low for the foreseeable future, an estimate period of at least 3 years, we're obviously going to have to factor this into future budget deliberations.
Yeah, absolutely, it will have to be factored into our long-term financial forecast. So certainly your interest on investments, it subsidises general rates, it subsidises a lot of our other income streams. So while every bit counts in this space, and whilst it was only $1.9 million in total, it is revenue we'll need to try and find from other sources, yes.
And whilst not directly in point, how much does it cost us to borrow?
Current interest rates advised from QTC just yesterday was 1.7%.
1.7%. No better time than to borrow. Thanks.
I'll note that, Councillor Trevor.
Right. Is there any further questions to the General Manager? Did we have a mover? Sorry, Councillor Hanson. Yep. Second, Councillor Cameron. All those in favour? That's carried. Move on to item G/4.4, Cemetery and Crematorium Policy Amendment. Over to you, Mark. Is that your one, Mark? Sorry. No, Mark Francis.
Oh. Mark and Mark.
Mark and Mark. Whichever Mark, take it away.
Morning, everybody. As you're aware, Boyntana Memorial Parklands, due to its unique soil geology, was opened in 2007 using polymer crypts for burials. We have limited capacity, therefore, and while we bring forward plans for an increase in that capacity in the parklands, if we continue to allow reservations for crypt burials, we run the risk of not having any available plots to meet immediate demand. Therefore, requesting you allow us to temporarily amend the policy to suspend reservation of crypt plots at Boyntana. We've got Lisa Faulkner here, who's involved in our cemetery planning and has helped to prepare the report for any detailed questions.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions to the General Manager? Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I just had one question in relation to the cost of providing crypts. Is it worth investigating the possibility of acquiring an alternate land site for future burials, given the cost of crypts as opposed to the normal cost of burial. It just occurred to me that we're expending a significant amount of money because of the water table, and is it something that we should, from a future point of view, start to look at some future acquisition of land that doesn't have those water table issues, which would ultimately result in a significant saving to council in the future? That's just something that occurred to me. That's all.
Sure. I think we're solving an immediate problem just now, but Salisa can talk more about the planning that she's undertaking just now in terms of her cemetery planning.
Yep, we can get it on. Very good question, Councillor Trevor. So we're currently developing a cemetery asset growth plan at the moment. Part of that, and certainly feedback we've received, is to do a business case around the Boyne-Tanner Memorial Parklands, specifically on looking at the options of whether we continue to develop the current site or look for a new piece of land. We also do have a reserve over at Tannum for cemetery purposes, but as I understand it, there's a lot of rock on that site, so it also may not be suitable for your typical earth burial. So yeah, as part of that project, we're doing that business case analysis.
Fantastic, thanks for that.
Any further questions for the General Manager? I suppose it just highlights some of the challenges that local government face to provide these facilities. They're obviously critical and very important facilities for our community, and this highlights some of the challenges in that space. Is there a mover for the motion? Moved Councillor Branthwaite, moving the officer's recommendation.
Yes, Mr Deputy Mayor, I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder? Seconding Councillor Hanson. All those in favour? That's carried. Move on to item G/4.5. The request to consider waiving adopted infrastructure charges associated with development application 50/2019 for a material change of use for premises for a tourist park located in Rosedale. Over to Rob Hoof, General Manager for Customer Experience.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and good morning, councillors. As noted, the development application 50/219 is the one in question. The subject site is located within the rural zone under the planning scheme. The site does not have access to council infrastructure such as water and sewage. The site has vehicle access to and from Newtons Road, which is classified as an unsealed rural access road in accordance with Council's road hierarchy. As per Council's adopted infrastructure charges and in accordance with the Local Government Infrastructure Plan LGIP, a tourist park with 14 sites and lodge with 12 guests will attract a charge rate of $33,050. On the 21st of August 2020, the applicant lodged a request to Council seeking a significant reduction on the adopted infrastructure charge. This request was, however, not formally decided by Council, with the applicant submitting an additional request for a nil infrastructure charge soon after. Development is located outside of the priority infrastructure area and therefore does not qualify for officer consideration under the rebate scheme. And the report provides two options for Council to consider: refuse the applicant's request or approve the applicant's request as worded.
Thank you, Rob. Councillors, any questions to the General Manager? Councillor Trevor?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Rob, I continue to struggle with this concept in relation to additional demand being placed on the trunk infrastructure. We've got a rural setting, we've got a tourist arrangement being proposed, we have minimal guests, we have an infrastructure charge of about $33,000. I just always struggle with the suggestion that the calculation of additional demand placed upon trunk infrastructure that will be generated by the development will fall to council to cover, and I'm just anxious to know what trunk infrastructure would be impacted by a development of this nature, which brings about the need for us to impose an infrastructure charge that will alleviate the impact on our trunk infrastructure to the order of $33,000. That's all. Is it? Yep. That's the only thing I continue to struggle with these types of requests. That's all.
Yeah, essentially the infrastructure or council infrastructure being impacted by this would be the road network. Being an unsealed road network is the main asset being impacted by the additional transport activities as associated with the development.
Sorry, through the chair. We would have to change our policy. That's the problem here too. We have a policy that our officers have to follow. I can see your point, Councillor Trevor, exactly your point with these types of developments. But we have to go. If we have to go outside the officer's recommendation, I see it in the policy itself. We have to look at the policy a lot harder and have a look at these developments outside priority infrastructure areas, because there are going to be more. So, and we shouldn't have to sit here and decide whether to impose or not to impose. The policy says we have to at the moment. So,
Mr Deputy Mayor, if I may just quickly, we have noted councillors' comments on this and previous items, and we are looking at the policy as we speak. So we note the concerns that have been raised, but you're correct, the current policy we have is all that officers can outwork, but we are doing further work on considering some changes that may better meet what council's policy intent is.
Thank you. Councillor Branthwaite.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm just looking through the attachments, and obviously there was a correspondence between the applicant and council, and at one stage there a fee of $50,000 was touted around, and now it's $33,000. Is it? Was there a discount applied in that of $17,000 or $18,000?
Yeah, there was a $17,800 credit that is applied to that $50,000.
They've already paid $17,000 already? Yep. Okay. So the balance is still 33?
The balance is 33,000 currently, yes.
I think the credit is applied as per the existing use.
Yes,
so
that's
that
right.
they haven't necessarily
haven't necessarily paid anything?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Rob, for that report. I think I'm actually having similar thoughts about obviously the policy and how these, affect the development of places like this. Now, I don't like to go outside the policy unless there's, I guess my issue with deciding one way or another in a per case basis is that we just seem to not be consistent. So at the same time as we might just go and say, yeah, okay, we might waive the infrastructure charges this time. Well, then why are not doing the same in the next instance? So, and also we're not doing it for people that don't send us a letter requiring to do that. So, can I ask you, have they approached us to get the scheme that we have, the 50% scheme, with this type of developments?
Yeah, the initial request was for a significant reduction, and then on the same day they came back and then applied for a nil. But they didn't apply. I mean, they applied for a significant reduction, but not for the rebate scheme that we have.
They could do it. It's outside the LGR.
Yeah, outside the infrastructure.
Yeah, but we have done that in the past. What I'm saying, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we do that. So it would be, to me, more consistent with decisions we made in the past, where we have, of the three conditions, the fact that they were not within the priority infrastructure area, we still allowed that 50% to apply. So I will be more willing to sort of look at something like that. But I guess the applicant hasn't suggested or requested that consideration. So I'll be more inclined to look at that than to just waive it completely, and not necessarily because I don't understand what they're asking, but it's because it's not in the policy, and we're not doing it for everybody. So my concern is that I just want to be consistent and fair to all of those other people that also have paid their charges in the past. So I also wanted to note that in the letter that the applicant said, he mentions an investment scheme or something in the Bundaberg Council. And that's something that I think I brought up in the past in which, you know, I know we're going to look at the policy now, but in the future, if we, instead of going and waiving charges that we have in our policy, if those people that are, so, say, for example, experiencing difficulties because of COVID or anything that might happen, that they can actually apply to that, which is a separate fund that we have special to address those issues. So not everybody is impacted by COVID. Not everybody has the same issues. So most people will, you know, try to not pay as much as they need to pay. I mean, we all do it. So yeah, I just think this is another time when we are reminded that there's other ways in which we can do things. And I don't know much about the Bundaberg investment fund, but this is something that I brought in the past, as in why don't we just have why don't we go a different direction instead of just waiving fees when people send us a letter, which I don't find that to be a very good process, and I guess it's not as transparent as I would like it to be, unfair for everybody. So.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. I think we're obviously going to do some work on this policy. This was a policy that we brought in some years ago to try and attract investment as far as the 50% reduction. And I understand, you know, I agree we should try and stick to policy as often as we can. And the LGIP has been something that we've a part of this policy that we've grappled with on different times, because we wanted to promote development within the priority infrastructure area, but we also understand that it is somewhat of a one-size-fits-all policy that doesn't necessarily, apply as fairly to areas like Rosedale, Agnes Water, some of the Boyne Valley, some of those rural areas, so that the option for councillors is to make decisions in those exceptions where we think we want to apply that fund. I agree with Councillor Muscat. I'd be more inclined to support some level of assistance for this development in respect to our infrastructure incentive schemes policy, rather than a complete waiving of the fees. And I, you know, the science, so to speak, behind these infrastructure charges are that at some point in time there will be an increase to the infrastructure demand, and there will be a cost, and that cost will be borne by either ratepayers or the proponents undertaking these types of development. So if we accept that science, then we have to accept that there is going to be a charge at some point in time. My question or my concern in regards to this one, though, Rob, was the unlawful campgrounds, and I'm trying to remember back to the decision around this site. But can you just clarify me? And my concern is if we have, you know, I think we need to promote that proponents that undertake the right processes and you know, go about these types of developments in the right manner, according to all the necessary processes that are in place. And when we have unlawful developments, and then I'm not sure that sends a good message if we were to approve discounts, etc. Can you give me some context around the nature of that?
Yeah, I don't have the detail, I don't have the history on it, but I believe Mark does.
While it was operating unlawfully, I think we need to give credit to those proponents who we engage with and then choose to become compliant. So, look, regulation is difficult, and people doing small-scale businesses need to navigate that regulation. We know of a number of operations in the area around Rosedale and Baffle running small-scale camping, and we are engaging a number of those proponents who are advertising in a number of forums. And generally, people, once they understand that they require approvals, engage appropriately with us. They're not willfully breaking the law. The term acting unlawfully, they're acting without appropriate approvals.
Thank you, Mark, and that's a good point. If people are just unawares that they're not, going through those processes because they're not necessarily sure that they exist. So what I'm hearing is that we've got a proponent that has engaged once they've been made aware of that. Councillor Braithwaite, did you have... No? Was there any other questions? Councillor Trevor?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. The 135 Newtons Road, Rosedale, Rob, is that road sealed or unsealed?
Unsealed.
So it's an unsealed gravel road?
Yep.
And there's no plans in the imminent future for council to put any low-cost sealing on that particular part of the road?
No, none that I'm aware of, but I do believe our assets team are looking at the low-cost bitumen seal type projects at the moment and reviewing that. Whether that's included or not, I can't say.
I tend to agree with Councillor Muscat and Councillor Hanson. It's a difficult area because one month we're approving reductions and other months we're not, and often we're not approving them because they're outside the prescribed infrastructure area. The whole push behind bringing in these, incentivising these projects so that we could stimulate our economy, including those outside our city, and provide economic development and employment for our region. It's just difficult with us picking winners and losers every month. As the CEO has quite rightly pointed out, we really need to deal with this urgently because, on 1 month we're saying, yes, look, this is a great project and we should waive these fees, and the next minute we're saying, well, it's not in accordance with the policy, we'll make a decision on this one. I don't know, we've got to be consistent, as Councillor Muscat has quite rightly pointed out. It's just, I don't know. Anyway.
Councillor Church?
Yeah, thanks very much. I'll give you my brief take on it as well. I believe that we have been inconsistent, but we've already established a precedence, and just based on Madam CEO indicating there before that you're going back to review the policy, which obviously would be the consideration also of the priority infrastructure area, or does that come under a review of the town planning scheme? Because just the way I feel at the moment, we've got option 1, option 2 before us at the moment, and we want to encourage the development by virtue of everything that's been said. But are we, and I don't want to get into a toe-to-toe with the Councillor Khan, good luck today on deferring matters, because I know that his position on it, but do we enter into an area of peril if we just simply defer this matter until we can review as a priority or as an urgency the policy, the priority infrastructure area, and where we do want to see the development? And irrespective of what's been happening in the past, they've been vigilant and they've put it before us now. I just feel more inclined to defer the decision. Doesn't necessarily mean they're still going to be granted. Defer the decision so that we can actually review the policy, review the priority infrastructure area, and get an understanding of how we can create growth and investment in other parts of the region that are screaming and calling out for those types of development. So through you, Mr. Chair, I'm asking the question to the Madam CEO at this stage.
Councillor Churchill, I can't give you a time frame right now, but I can certainly take that on notice to come back to you with some clear advice. The considerations that we're giving to these matters now are a bit bigger than PIAs. We are looking at the biggest impact on our infrastructure in our region is significant subdivisions. So new areas, significant development investment, of which we have had quite a number through the boom periods, and that was quite important to have the charging right. We are considering these material change of use projects. Are they a little bit different? Is that something we need to look at? In terms of disadvantaging others who paid their infrastructure charges, and Mark might know off the top of his head, we've collected very little by the way of infrastructure charges in the last couple of financial years. There's not a lot being paid, so there isn't a lot of that activity going on incurring those charges. So we are looking more at the category of use, and is it appropriate for us to continue to make those charges, or do we focus more on the significant subdivisions that have the biggest impact and make a lot of common sense in terms of people understanding why and when those charges are applied. But I can certainly take it on notice to come back with advice on the timeframe of a policy review. We just need to work through all of the implications of some of those decisions and what they would mean before Council considered it again, but I don't think it would be before the end of this year at this point in time. But happy to take that on notice. If you're wanting to defer, we can absolutely accommodate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I've got Councillor Branthwaite, then Councillor Muscat. Councillor Cameron, did you want? Yep. I think from my perspective, other councillors may have a different view, when we put the PIA into this policy, exactly as the CEO said, we were more concerned about not offering 50% discount charges to massive developments, that might happen just outside the city centre, where we're going to deal with hundreds of properties and major costs. I don't think it was the intent, certainly wasn't my intent, and I don't think it was any councillor's intent to intentionally try and exclude these sort of small-scale developments in our outer areas that will contribute to the economic development of those areas. And just on the point of consistency, I do think we've been consistent in the fact that every application that comes through is different. The applications are not consistent, so to speak, because each and every one of them are different, and each and every one of them has a different level of merit. And as councillors, we sit around and we assess those applications based on their merit. So in that respect, we have been consistent from my view. But Councillor Branthwaite?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Look, the whole realm of what we're trying to do in the regional areas is trying to attract investment. And there's no doubt that the applicant would see this as a pretty big slug, because I think the word infrastructure charges is deemed an unnecessary word. I think infrastructure contribution is probably a lot better, because it contributes to the repair of the road. It contributes to the picking of this, the picking of that, and the rubbish and that along the side of the road, and the weeding and all those other things that go into keeping our region beautiful. And I think down the track, looking at if we could defer this, even if we deferred it a couple of 3 months, and really hammered down on zoning in on those things that are marginal on the outskirts of everything, to get the likes of your Boyne Valley, the likes of up through the back of Mount Larkham, or down at Rosedale and Baffle Creek and that, and getting that attraction, or the destination side of things, the experience that we've got through our whole region, a bit more sort of amplified and developed, would certainly be a great assistance to those people. Like the people that obviously we followed this one for a while, because the fact that they were doing business there unwittingly, knowing that they were actually breaking the rules and that around the regional council. But obviously once that's been brought to the attention, they've been cooperating very well, and come up with a whole heap of money like that, it is a big slug. There's no doubt about that. But I do believe that we've all got to, as businesses that affect our region, impact our region, we've all got to contribute. We don't necessarily need to be charged for it, but we all need to contribute to the infrastructure that brings traffic to our business, and the traffic that does impact on the regional areas as well. So, yeah, thank you.
Councillor Cameron?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I'm a little bit conflicted on this one too. I don't like going against the recommendations of our officers, but this is a classic example of one size does not fit all. When I read through this report, my feeling on it was that we had people here that found that they were not working legally, that they had this thing that needed to be brought up to speed. They've done that, they've addressed that. I get a picture of the typical little Aussie battler having a go here and trying to do the right thing. And in that sense, I really feel they need to be supported. What I was going to put up would be that the 50% infrastructure charge discount that they're not entitled to might be considered in this situation to help them out. I understand that this little project of theirs does contribute significantly to the local area as far as the people out there in the shops purchase things in the local area. So it is a valuable asset to the area, and I'd like to see this project helped along as well as we possibly could. I could be agreeable to a deferment so long as it doesn't go on forever, but in a view of getting this thing sorted today, if we had to, I'd be interested in putting up a proposal that we consider a 50% discount on the existing infrastructure charge. Thanks.
Are you looking to move that as a motion, Councillor?
I'd like it discussed first,
Yep.
Mr Mayor.
Not a problem.
Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Muscat?
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. I wanted to I was in a way going to go the same way as Councillor Cameron. So considering what we've done in the past, we have awarded the 50% discount under the incentive scheme, and the only thing there's three conditions, and I'm assuming they will tick two of them, apart from the one being where they are. So it's not the priority infrastructure area. So I'm not of the mind of deferring it. I would like to do that now. I understand now after all the discussions and a number of situations that we have been in the past, similar to this one, we now come to obviously a conclusion that we really have to review the policy and also make a few other changes. So unfortunately, we haven't done it yet, and hopefully we will, but I don't really want to defer it. I would like to go with the suggestion of Councillor Cameron. Now, the other thing that I wanted to say was that I actually agree with Councillor Braithwaite in relation to the contribution. I guess it will be a tradition to call it a charge, but language, I think,
it's legislation.
Yeah, that's right. So it is. Well, I'm noting here that it's legislation, but it is actually a contribution, and language means a lot. And when we talk about I guess, charges is more like a punishment situation instead of, I guess what we're all paying to maintain our areas and our region. So what I would like to see in the policy or any other rebates or rebate schemes or discounts or things like incentives, like I'm looking at another council here, it's that we actually have a criteria. So there's also then, it might be that they might not be in the right area in which we want to see infrastructure, but then, however, their development might actually have a greater economic benefit. So, the same as when people apply for grants or funding. So, you have different weightings on each of those criteria items. So it's not like a one-size-fits-all sometimes. So you might not be in that specific area where you want to see development. However, because of the nature of that development, like, for example, the bowling alley that we had last time, that it was, something unique, something that it's, I guess we're expecting to be something that means a lot to our community. So those things that we sort of going away from the one-size-fit-all, and then we be able to have different people apply, not necessarily and even someone that is within the infrastructure area, which might not actually, don't need that incentive or that rebate. So same way goes, the same goes the other way. So I'm really looking forward to reviewing that policy, to have some kind of different way into which we apply development incentives, contributions. I know we can't call them anything else but charges, but I think language is very important around here, and it's important everywhere, and that's the way we communicate with our community, and we're not here punishing people. We're just here trying to make things work for everyone. I mean, at the end of the day, all that money goes into maintaining all the parklands, maintaining the other roads that people use to get to these places, and no one's going to go to a place where everything is, there's no water down the road, or there's no, or the roads are all broken. It's not just about the road that goes in front of your property. So I will leave Councillor Cameron, if he wants to move the 50% for this application for us to consider the 50% rebate under the infrastructure scheme, or I don't know the name of the program, but so to be consistent with what we've done in the past.
Thanks, Councillor Muscat. Before I go to Councillor O'Grady, can I just clarify with the CEO, if hypothetically, if in the next 3 to 6 months, whenever it might be, that we were to review the policy and have some sort of, let's say we were to remove infrastructure charges, I know that's a future discussion and decision, but just hypothetically, if we were to remove infrastructure charges for a development like this altogether in the future policy, would there be a mechanism that, for example, this proponent or others could then apply for that, or would the decision today apply?
Take some legal advice on it, but usually with policies you can make them retrospective from an effective date, but we'd need to confirm that when we brought it back for you. I don't know.
If I may, Deputy Mayor, as well, so we are obliged under the Act and our resolution to raise infrastructure charges, so any consideration that we would be taking in future would be to offset that charge for the proponent with our own money, essentially. So we can't remove infrastructure charges per se. We have to subsidise those charges for the development. But that's certainly a consideration that the team is working on. There's a further point I wanted to make in as it concerns a deferral, just for advice, that while we can defer the decision, and that's absolutely within your right, the adopted infrastructure charges notice has been issued and is live, and was included with the decision notice as well. So the debt there exists. So there may need to be some advice from Mark's team in terms of what happens with that if you're deferring. We wouldn't undertake recovery necessarily on that.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor O'Grady.
Thank you, Councillor. Good luck. I agree. When I was reading this document, I was hoping there was option 3, and because that's the next page. So I do agree with Councillor Cameron and everybody else that spoke. I was hoping that we could see that 50% discount applied. Thank you.
I might throw back to you, Councillor Cameron, if you'd like to move a motion, just noting that we have to have, because it's outside the officer's recommendation, there has to be a reason if you were to move something that was not the recommendation.
Okay, just clarifying that if I do so, would these people be eligible for a payment plan, and would it be reasonably accepted?
Yep.
Okay. Well, in consideration of that, in consideration of item G/4.5, I would like to move that a 50% discount on the existing remainable payment of the infrastructure charge be offered. My reason for that is to promote economic development and growth in the area. And
might we just add there, if for your consideration, Councillor Cameron, that given that that's in line with our current, what's the name of the policy, incentive scheme policy? Do you want to just...
Yes, I'll add that in line with the existing investment policy scheme.
Councillor Muscat, did you want to second that? Yep. Councillor Trevor?
So where does that leave the proponents in relation to amount owing? Rob?
Yeah, so if that's a 50% reduction, it'd be the 50% reduction on the $33,000.
So that's about $16,025.
Yep.
And that can be, we work with the proponents to enter into payment arrangements and
Yes.
work proactively with them in that manner as well.
Yes.
Yep. So we've got a mover and a seconder. No other questions from councillors? We'll put, is that all right there, Councillor Cameron, the reading of the motion?
If you'd like to reread it, please. Oh, there it is, sorry.
So the motion reads that a 50% discount on the existing remaining infrastructure charge be offered in line with the existing incentive policy due to the economic benefit provided by the development.
Happy with that, Deputy Mayor?
All right, we've got a mover and a seconder. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That is carried. And I think we might now, given that it's 10:30, we'll break for morning tea and we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Welcome back, everybody. We're moving on to item number G/4.6, Community Investment Program, Regional Enhancement Fund, Sport and Active Recreation Community Projects. Do we have any conflicts for this item? Councillor Churchill's leaving the room. Thanks, Councillor Churchill. And hand over to our General Manager of Community Development and Events, Kylie Lee. Thanks, Kylie.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thanks, councillors. Thanks, CEO, and those who are joining us from home. I've got Emily Costello with us today. She's our Community Investment Officer and responsible for putting together all of the reports that we're tabling today. The first one that we'll go through is the Sport and Active Recreation Community Project Fund. This fund is really to support sport and active recreation applicants that own, lease or control land, and to enhance their facilities and increase sporting participation. 21 applications were received for this fund and they were assessed by our Community Investment Panel. 5 applications are recommended for funding, those that scored highly against the assessment criteria, which you can see later on in the report. The total funds available for the Sport and Active Recreation Community Projects is $110,000. 2 options are provided within this report for Council's consideration: the full funding of the top 4 projects and then a remaining allocation of $16,478 to the 1770 Bowls Club, or option 2 would be to fully fund the top 5 applications and reallocate $3,033.60 from another funding stream. I invite any questions.
Questions to the General Manager? Kylie, just what would the other funding stream be, sorry? Was that option 2, was it?
It is option 2, Councillor Goodluck, and it comes from the Education and Development Fund, which has been underutilised.
Thank you. Yep. Councillor Muscat.
Hello. I guess it's not a question, but it is, you know, I see the other applications that came up as also normally would be eligible for funding, and it's quite, I guess, yeah, I'm not very happy that we're not able to help them, but, you know, considering, you know, that some of them just came just all under. But is there any way, I guess they will just have to resubmit at the next round, so there's no way that we can just sort of do anything?
The allocations will exhaust the fund budget for this financial year. Thank you. Sorry. The allocation in here will exhaust the community project's budget for this financial year. However, they would be able to resubmit if the project remained current next financial year at the new budget.
Yeah. So, well, I can add that up, but it will be, so 30, so 50, 80, another 110. So, yeah, we're looking at, you know, almost $140,000 extra if we wanted to fund the other organisations. And I hope they do resubmit, and yeah, I wish I could, you know, I think we all wish we could help them all, but congratulations to all of them for submitting anyway. Thank you.
And Councillor Muscat, that's you're right, we wish we could fund all of the applications, but that's why we have an assessment criteria in place so that we can really select the best projects that align with our funding.
Yeah.
Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'm happy to move option 2, which provides the additional funding of $3,000 odd from an alternate source on the basis that the 5 nominated beneficiaries will receive the total amount requested. It did occur to me when reading this report that if Council is faced with some significant issues in the future in relation to COVID, these community projects would be great for a mini stimulus package. I just raise it as a thought that perhaps we could keep in mind that in the event of COVID arriving on our doorstep and the need to stimulate our local economy, supporting local people and local businesses and local jobs. This might be the Bible we could refer back to on the basis that all the hard yards have already been done. Obviously, most, if not all, of the projects are shovel ready, and a mini budget, if it becomes necessary, I can think of no better place to start.
Councillor Trevor, you're spot on there. So with the recent Rise Up funding, part of that was funded through the Community Investment Program. So we can be agile and actually repurpose those funds in the case of an emergency.
Thank you. Was that you were moving option 2, Councillor Trevor? Yep.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Option 2, which is the $113,033.60 as opposed to the $110,000.
Thank you. And Councillor Hanson, did you want to second?
That, Deputy Mayor.
Fantastic. No further questions to the General Manager. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried. If we can get Councillor Churchill back in the room, and we'll move on to item number G/4.7. Do we have any conflicts for this one? No. I thought we did.
I believe we did have conflicts, but
that was no one leaving the room.
Both Councillor Churchill and Councillor O'Grady remaining in the room.
That's right. So item G/4.7, Community Investment Program, Community Celebration Fund, Ignite and Impact. And I hand back to General Manager Kylie Lee.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This particular fund has 2 streams, so Ignite and Impact, and these are to support events in our region with audiences between 2,500 to up to 5,000 people. 7 applications were received and assessed for the Ignite events funding round, and 5 were assessed as successful. It should be noted that during the assessment, the Boyne Burnett Inlet Rail Trail Pedal in the Park Adventure Day was unsuccessful on this occasion. However, the panel showed a great interest in working with the Boyne Burnett Inland Rail Trail Committee to develop a proposal that showcases the significant tourism asset in the Boyne Valley rather than in Gladstone at Police Creek. So we'll be working with the committee around that application. 3 applications were received for the Impact Event Fund for events that attract up to 5,000 visitors, and it was recommended by the panel that the Agnes Blues and Roots Festival 2021 would be fully funded, and that the Rotary International District Conference would be funded through Council's Business Attraction Fund within its existing budget. I invite any questions on the resolutions.
Thank you. Any questions to the General Manager? Councillor Muscat.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor Goodluck. I just wanted to check on the ones that didn't receive a score, if that was, just to clarify. I know I've read some things, but if you could give me a bit more of an explanation, yeah.
The Agnes Water Skate event, we had advice from a professional organisation around not recommending that event.
All that you could say. Thank you.
Councillor Trevor.
Happy to move the recommendation, Deputy Mayor.
Got a mover in Councillor Trevor, seconding Councillor Branthwaite. No further questions to the General Manager? No, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Declare it carried. We'll move on to item number G/4.8, Community Investment Program, Regional Enhancement Fund, Sport and Active Recreation Strategic Projects. And we don't have anyone leaving the room for this matter? No. Hand over to Kylie. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Our Sport and Active Recreation Strategic Projects is valued at around $100,000, and it's really funding to support sport and active recreation organisations to fund existing or build new facilities where the organisation has tenure over the land. We received 5 applications for this fund. The panel has recommended to fund 2 applications on this occasion, 1 in total and another in part. The Scout Association of Australia Calliope branch submitted an application to replace the roof and guttering on their Scout building in Calliope. Their current facility has significant rust and has eroded in several areas. The funding of $10,000 would ensure the building can continue to be used for the Scout group in Calliope. The second project was for the Gladstone District Hockey Association, and it's to upgrade their existing lighting to LED. This will allow them to attract additional state games and to reduce energy consumption. The remaining funding to complete their particular project will come from other alternate grant sources. Two options have again been provided for councillors' decision. One is to fully fund the Calliope Scouts building repair and to partly fund the LED upgrade for the Gladstone District Hockey Club. Or option 2 is to fully fund both projects, again transferring unused funds from alternate funding sources. And that alternate funding source is halls and museums. Historical and Heritage Museums, which all of the eligible applications have been received and funded.
Thank you, Kylie. Could I just ask, before I hand to Councillor Churchill, I just noticed the applicant contribution for the Scout Association project is noted as the same as their request, but it doesn't line up with the total project cost. Can you just run me through? A couple of those are different there. So the applicant contribution is how much the applicant is putting forward. So they've effectively just split the price of the project down the middle. Is that right?
Correct, Councillor Goodluck. That's just an error on our part. Sorry about that. The Scouts will be investing $2,737 of their money to fund the project.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Churchill?
No, thanks for that. That was a question I was going to ask Councillor Goodluck, but in light of saying that, I'd be very keen to support total funding of both projects from taking that funding that's sitting there for heritage and historic museums, considering that all those have been funded anyway. But anyway, that's...
Are you moving, Councillor?
I'm not moving out, no, but I'm prepared to move that motion that we totally fund both projects.
Sorry, that's moved by Councillor Churchill. Can I get a seconder for that? Seconded Councillor Cameron. Councillor Muscat?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you just a quick question, and I'm in support of the motion, but do we have this every year in which we receive too many applications, or...?
It happens all the time, Councillor Muscat. We receive, we invite openly applications from any organisation, and then it's our responsibilities as officers to then assess them against the criteria.
Yeah, it just seems like it will be something that we could look into probably next time, so I mean, I'm just thinking of also some of these organisations that may start only just for a tiny bit, and they would have been very much eligible. So,
just for note, the Community Projects Fund was actually undersubscribed quite severely last year, and we did open an out of round in January, February for that one. Strategic Projects did have enough applications last year, but not 5. I suppose in the first 12 months of the policy, as word has got out, it has increased interest in applications to the fund.
And I remember historically that the Strategic Projects grant has been undersubscribed. In fact, on at least one occasion, if not more, I remember there was only one application. And so it's great to see lots of different community clubs that are aware of this and trying to take advantage of an opportunity. And I think that's well over $200,000 just in the last couple of items that ratepayers have managed to fund for growth and development of clubs right across the region. Lots of volunteers putting in lots of effort to make our community a better place. So it's a great initiative and good to see. Councillor Muscat?
Yeah, thank you. I was just kind of more referring to the sporting and sport and active recreation one, where there's a few that may start and they were really close. But yeah, it's great to see this. We're getting a lot more applications. Just don't want to disappoint people. That's all. When they actually done quite well. So that's the thing.
Councillor Muscat, part of Emily's role as well is to suggest other funding sources, and in the next few months we're hoping to have a community grant portal that's on our website that will further support our community in sourcing those grants. So, yeah.
Councillor Trevor.
And my previous comments in relation to COVID would equally apply to this also. In the event of COVID hitting us as a community and the madness and mayhem that occurs and the need to push out some stimulus into our economy, no better time to borrow at 1.7%.
Noted, Councillor.
All right, we've
going down.
Is there any other questions for the General Manager? No, we've got a mover in Councillor Churchill and a seconder in Councillor Cameron, was it? I think. Put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried. We'll move on to item number G/4.9, the annual report for 1920, and hand over to the General Manager for Strategy and Transformation, Carly Quinn. I understand Carly's got a matter that's come up she's got to deal with, so I hand over to General Manager for Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. So, tabled with you in the break is the annual report for 2019-20, and pleased to present that for you. With me I have Leslie Seven-Newton, who's prepared or done largely all the legwork in pulling the report together that not only makes sure that we complete with all of our legislative obligations, but also just tells a story of our performance and what we've delivered for the community over the financial year. So pleased to present this report for you. The report is inclusive of our financial statements that have been endorsed by the Auditor General as of yesterday, and will be subject of a separate report that will come back to you on the 1st of December, including the closing report from the QAO. But I'm sure Leslie will be able to answer any questions if I can't for you, but certainly commend the report to you.
Thank you. Any questions to the General Manager?
Just thanks, Mr. Chair.
Churchill.
Just a comment and then a very minor question more than anything. Congratulations, very impressive. Makes for good reading. And I think also at the same time, it also makes, I suppose, aspects of the report are now into the world of technology, where you've indicated that people can go online and see the report and it becomes interactive, which is to be applauded. But yeah, well done to everybody involved. My question, surprisingly, is, and I had pleasure, and I did send an email back, I had pleasure reading right through it all, is it was on page 202, and I know I've raised the question previously, whilst we make it all interactive, which is about the register of interests, which is about the register of delegations, register of authority, register for roads, register. We seem to have registers for everything now. We've got registers for registers, but my question is quite simple, is that what of those long list of registers on page 202 are available to the public to access? And I know that I've raised this question before, Madam CEO, which was the delegations, when we make those determinations of delegations. So are those registers readily available and readily made available to the public? Or is it specific within the legislation that only certain ones are available for public review?
Yeah, certainly we make public the registers that are available to be made public. So some of them aren't. They're really just around how we carry out our business. But there certainly is an obligation for us to keep all of these registers, and that this probably just is about just documenting that for transparency. But certainly the stuff that we are required to ensure that we've got that oversight out in the community, that is actually out there and on our website.
And I suppose, thanks for that, so some are available, some aren't available,
Yeah,
depending on
there's some problem,
circumstances. Okay, fair enough. And I suppose appropriately subject to the decision here today, when do we anticipate it being signed off, sealed, delivered and launched onto the website?
We're
Thank you,
prepared
Leslie.
to do that today after adoption in this
All
meeting,
right.
if everyone accepts.
Lovely. Terrific, thank you.
Councillor Branthwaite.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to congratulate you on the report for all that's involved with it. I know preparing reports, annual reports, with my last role was a big task, and this is even bigger, if there's such a word. Well, it is. It's enormous, you know. But no, congratulations on that. It's a wonderful document, and I've got no doubt that it'll create a lot of interest right throughout the whole region. Thank you.
Councillor Muscat.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark, and thank you for presenting this to us. I just had just a couple of little things, and I guess there's the part in which we list donations, for example, I think, page 40. And I was just wondering, I mean, why is it that, for example, the first line item here, it says Safe Life Saving, and I was under the impression that that was more of a contract, or, you know, what's the criteria to list our obligations under donations?
So there's part that is covered in our community support policies. Plus, there's also the Surf Life Saving receives several components. There's actually there's a direct contribution towards their service. Okay. But we actually even also do provide a subsidy with respect to some of the infrastructure that they use on their behalf. So particularly in and around like their buildings and the water and sewage charges, etc., that they incur on those.
Yeah, thank you. And I just also wanted to, before we move this report, I just noted in my profile that I'm listed as a Gladstone Foundation Board of Advice member, but I have never really received confirmation that of that appointment. So if we could maybe remove it, because it's not really...
We'll clarify that and amend as appropriate. Yep.
Yeah. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Muscat. Do we have any other questions to the officers? Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks. Look, it would dollar terminology. I know we have compliance with legislation, and I've raised this before, but our CSOs, in highlighting that particular part.
CSOs are provided essentially through your donation. There's several parts that they emerge. Part of them is in your donations themselves that you see listed out there, and secondly, within your financial report, you will see that there's actually our corporate businesses that we operate, and there is actually a community service obligation with respect to where council subsidises things like the car parking at the entertainment centre, for instance. That's treated as income in those places.
Okay, so thanks for that. So what you're saying is now within every business unit, we now understand the importance or the principle of the role of local government with respect to community service obligation.
Absolutely, we continue to apply that in accordance with, we've got the legislative principles, particularly with respect to national competition policy around recognising our community service obligations. But as we've discussed on many occasions, Councillor Churchill, I would argue that for all of our services that we operate, that we don't recover costs or that we actually are funding, we are providing a community service.
You've been converted as an advocate. Good on you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. And just for anyone who's watching or paying attention, the annual report will be available on our website. Is that correct? And it certainly outlines all of the expenditure, how council has performed against our strategy and our planning over the past 12 months. There's a number of insights into the next 12 months throughout the report as well. So it's certainly some interesting reading if anyone's interested to see what's happening in the community and where our ratepayer funds are being spent. Can I get a mover for the officer's recommendation? Move Councillor Branthwaite, seconding Councillor O'Grady. I put the motion. All in favour? That's carried. We'll move on to item number G/4.10, tender 81-21, purchase of heavy rigid trucks and trailers, and hand over to Christy, sorry.
Oh, Cherie.
Christy and Cherie. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and good morning, councillors. Item G4.10. So the next item on the agenda is a recommendation to enter into a contract with Western Truck Group Proprietary Limited for the purchase of heavy rigid trucks and trailers for the roads program and the landfill to assist in their daily duties. All trucks and trailers are replacing current assets and are part of the fleet replacement program, 3 by tipper trucks and 1 by water truck. The dog trailers will be paired with the tipper trucks. We are working to standardise our fleet, and Volvo present the best overall value offer to council, with value for money confirmed in recent comparable open market tests. One offer was received and the results are contained in the report. The offer from Western Truck Group Proprietary Limited presents the best overall value to council. The offer made by Western Truck Group Proprietary Limited is made within the existing allocated funds for this project. I invite any questions.
Thank you, Cherie. Any questions to the officer? Councillor Branthwaite.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Just a bit of a clarification on you got 3 trucks required, the rear tippers, a single steer, one water truck, and 2 dog trailers to be paired with 2 rear tippers. All trucks are replaced with current assets, and it says in here that you're being purchased with transport for an 8-tonne excavator. One of them is being, is that a tipper trailer or a float? So one's being equipped for a dual purpose, is that what I'm reading?
Thanks, Councillor Bray. That might be a question that I've got Luke Wybrow, our project manager, looking at that fleet replacement program with us. Luke can probably speak to more detail around that one.
Yeah, they're 2 plant trailers that'll be used. They're the trailers that we've asked for. So they're not tipper trailers or anything like that. They're standalone plant trailers that will be utilised to move and transport the plant around. One of them is an 8-tonne excavator. There'll be loaders that will be moved as well, and other excavators that will be transported around. Yeah, the excavator that we're talking about there for the 8-tonne has already been purchased and is already within the fleet at the present stage.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Hanson.
Happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Happy to move. Seconded Councillor O'Grady. I put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried. We move on to item G/4.11, tender 97-21, supply of IT wheel loaders. Is that right? IT wheel loaders?
Thank you.
Thank you.
This item seeks resolution to enter into a contract with Hastings Deering Australia Limited for the supply of 2 CAT IT wheel loaders for the roads and quarries. Both IT wheeled loaders are replacing current assets and are part of the fleet replacement program and are in line with the current practice of standardising council's fleet. One offer was received and the results are contained in the report. The offer made by Hastings Deering Australia is in line with the funds allocated for this project, and therefore we are seeking your endorsement.
I know the Mayor will be very happy with yellow machinery.
The Mayor always loves to see new yellow machines. That's right. Councillor Branthwaite?
Thank you. IT loaders, obviously front-end loaders. Is that what it means? Front-end wheel loaders or?
For loading IT, Councillor Branthwaite.
For loading IT.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, they're both front-end loaders, wheel loaders. That's correct.
Yeah, I've never called them. I've never heard them called wheel loaders before. I thought you must have been loading wheels on the back of a truck or something. All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's the terminology they got now, so that's
all good, thank you.
Any further questions to the officers? Moving the officer's recommendation, Councillor Grady, seconded Councillor Branthwaite. All those in favour? That's carried. Move on to item number G/4.12, tender 51-21, GAC Aquatic Play Park upgrade. Thanks, Cherie.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The next item on the agenda is a recommendation to enter into a contract with M&N Enterprises Proprietary Limited, trading as Playscape Creations for the Gladstone Aquatic Centre Aquatic Play Park upgrade. The aquatic play park is now nearly 8 years old, and although structurally sound, the area needs rejuvenation to bring it back to its original colourful and playful status. 4 offers were received and the results are contained in the report. The offer from M&N Enterprises, trading as Playscape Creations, presents the best overall value offer to Council. The conforming offer made by M&N Enterprises Proprietary Limited, trading as Playscape Creations, is within the allocated funds for this project.
Thank you. Can I ask, did we do any community consultation around the... are we only replacing... Sorry. Specifically what's been with like for like, or are we changing that equipment somewhat?
Good luck. We are selecting the provider first. The provider will give us several options, and we'll be putting those up on our conversations platform for community feedback.
Thank you. Councillor Grady?
I just had a question regarding Playscape. So they put in 2 tenders, and one non-conforming. I just couldn't understand that, that's all.
Thanks, Councillor. One offer, the conforming offer, was responding to exactly what we asked for. The non-conforming offer is an alternate proposal.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. It's out of the park a little bit. What do we do with the old equipment? Is it saleable?
Question for Brodie.
Yeah. Hi, councillors. I'm not sure actually what's currently allowed in the scope of works under that contract. Obviously, demolishing that structure, we can look at what will be salvageable and presents value for council for reuse or on sale. We'll have to just get back to you to advise what's been allowed, but it certainly remains council's property. So we can look at options around resale or use of that infrastructure.
Just in addition to that, if I may, Deputy Mayor, the useful asset life of a water park is around 8 years, so it has reached its useful asset life. So on sale may not be possible with that respect.
Given that this is I know we said we're going to do some consultation, and that's great, but given that this is our premier aquatic centre facility in the region, and I certainly know there'll be lots of people, parents, families that use this facility and that would be interested in participating in that consultation. So I'm not, I know we'll have it on our conversations platform, and perhaps if there's any other way that we can try and engage with community around this particular upgrade, I'm sure it will be well received. Is there any other questions to the officers? Do we have a mover for a motion? Councillor Hanson moving.
Happy to move.
the officer's
Mayor.
recommendation, yep.
Happy to second.
Seconded, Councillor Churchill. All those in favour? Declare it carried. Next on the list is item number G/4.13, PSA 47-21, maintenance of traffic lights, school flashing and flood signs. Over to you, Shuri.
Thank you. This item seeks resolution from Council to enter into a preferred supplier contract with PedTech Proprietary Limited for the maintenance of traffic lights, school flashing and floodlights. Council requires a service provider who can provide scheduled inspections and maintenance on various traffic lights, pedestrian lights, school zone flashing signs and electronic flood signs throughout the region. 2 offers were received and the results are contained in the report. PedEx's submission was evaluated as presenting the best overall value to Council. Selection for a preferred supplier arrangement gives no guarantee or representative as to the value of orders to be issued by Council. However, expected expenses incurred for both scheduled and unscheduled services are within the expected allocated funds for this work.
No, I've got a question.
Councillor, I do have a mover of the motion in Councillor Braithwaite. Have we got a seconder?
Happy to second.
Seconded, Councillor Hanson, and we'll go to Councillor Churchill with a question.
Yeah, thanks for that. This was more a budgetary aspect, not necessarily relevant to the tender, but in trying to understand, is there funding that is provided for this? Is this a whole budget from our ratepayers, or is there a partnership relationship with DTMR or Department of Transport, or I mean, I understand the history behind this, in previous times where it wasn't local government's responsibility, but yeah, I think there's a bigger issue in amongst this. And again, I'm not opposed to the tender process and what the recommendation is, but perhaps it's a question to our General Manager of Finance and Governance and devolution of responsibilities from other levels of government. That's just, I'll leave it at that at this stage, and subject to the answer, it might enrage some more debate.
You know my opinion on the relationship between state government and local government.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it, Councillor Hanson. I think I got a pretty good idea of it, unless it's changed, because I have my own opinion on it. But, anyway, we'll get the answer first, and then appropriately, and that's not detracting from the importance of the tender, but this is about roles and responsibilities, and be it delegation and be it devolution. And I refer to the cost-shifting inquiry that was undertaken by the LGAQ previously.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. So there is a mixture of funding for this. It is largely council. So ratepayers are funding for this, but there is certainly maintenance of traffic lights, flood signage and that on main roads that is recoverable through our RMPC contract. So those works are recoverable, but certainly there is a component that relates to assets that are on council roads, and therefore the ratepayers bear the cost of those.
Thank you, Mark. I did have a question. I think from memory we would have 26, maybe 28 schools across the region, somewhere around that vicinity. Is there a reason that we can't undertake this work with our own staff? Is it just a resourcing issue? Given that we haven't got John here, is this a tender that we've had in place previously? Is it a renewal tender?
Yes, it is, Deputy Mayor.
And I know that we've had a look at an insourcing strategy across our business scope to try and determine, what's best for us, our in-house staff to do, and what we need to tender and contract out, understanding that we can't do everything. But is this one of those items that was looked at, do we know, CEO? And if we don't have the answers to the questions, I know John's not here, but I'm just curious.
Happy to jump in, Mr Chair. That there are a number of activities that we're looking at, reviewing the insourcing opportunities and doing them in a staggered way so that we can do what's manageable. I don't believe this is one that's been identified. I'm unsure today whether to how to respond to your question about whether it's specialist or whether it's something our people could do, but it hasn't been flagged at this stage as one of those opportunities we want to review right now, but we can certainly take that on notice for future.
I'm assuming that we have other traffic lights and signage, etc., that our staff do undertake that work. Is that, or am I wrong?
There was part of these works, particularly with respect to the flood linkages into the bomb system. So there is a specialised component of that that this has been rolled into this. So I think there is certainly a component that is specialised and then hasn't been contemplated to be in-sourced, but I would have thought there is a component that may be able to be investigated in that space.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions for the officers? If we were to, I'm actually confident that perhaps that assessment has been undertaken, but I haven't got the answers to the questions today. If we were to defer this, is that something that would impact, that would have a dire impact?
I believe it would. As we said, we've identified what we can manage in terms of progressively reviewing the insourcing opportunities, and as recently as the last couple of weeks, we're actually looking at leasing some external premises to house some of the people that we're going to be putting on through the insourcing. So we do have depot constraints as well, so there are a number of factors that come into play here. So I think it would cause us some concerns, but if Council was of a mind that this is a priority, we would have to remove another service we were looking at on that list and could do that, absolutely, if Council wanted us to.
Do we need to have that noted in the... I would like to look at that, notwithstanding that other councillors may look at it differently, but if councillors were agreeable with that, is that something that we need to have noted in the motion, CEO, or can we just take that on board?
I'd probably prefer it as a resolution if that was a direction of the priority of our work.
Can I just add that this is a preferred supplier agreement. There is no guarantee of work or volumes involved under this agreement. The benefits that we derive operationally out of having this agreement in place is that we have someone that we can call at midnight when a set of traffic lights in town go down due to a traffic accident. So it's rather imperative that we've got someone that we can reach out to in those instances.
Okay, thank you. So it can be used in that respect as an overflow of workload as well in those sorts of circumstances. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
I'm prepared to move the motion. I couldn't support your attempt to defer the matter, Councillor Goodluck.
I haven't attempted it yet, Councillor
Churchill.
I'll take the move.
I'm just preempting the strike.
Councillor Churchill moving the officer's recommendation. Yep. Councillor Trevor, did you want a second or?
I just wanted to ask one question, Deputy Mayor, given that we're in the middle of, or the start of, cyclone season, and assuming that we have a significant Cat 3, 4 or 5 cyclone and we lose lots of these services, particularly traffic lights, and from a safety point of view, can these people be brought in as a preferred supplier to assist us in the recovery of our safety issues in relation to these signs?
Yes, absolutely, Councillor. That's part of the scope of work for this agreement.
Sorry, we had a mover in Councillor Churchill. Do we have a seconder for the motion?
Excuse me, Mr Deputy Mayor, we already did previously have Councillor Branthwaite move and Councillor Hanson second.
Oh, did we? We're getting ahead of ourselves, see?
We got
preemptive strike there, Councillor Churchill. Didn't work.
I'll withdraw my second motion.
Sorry, Councillor Branthwaite, forgot about that. Seemed like an eternity ago. Moved Councillor Branthwaite, seconded Councillor Hanson, was it? Sorry. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried. We move on to item number G/4.14, tender 259-20, Gundoon Street refurbishment works.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Just note for those watching that Councillor Trevor and Councillor Hanson have left the room.
This report seeks resolution from Council to increase the 2020-2021 capital budget and enter into a contract with J Hutchinson Proprietary Limited, trading as Hutchinson Builders for Gundoon Street refurbishment works. Council has planned to re-establish Gundoon Street as Gladstone's main street and to provide safe and efficient passage through a vibrant streetscape. Planned works will create a unique identity for the central business district, including a sense of arrival, and will recognise the city's heritage as an important asset and improve the quality of public spaces. The refurbishment will also offer connectivity to open spaces and planned future entertainment precincts. All offers received exceed the original budget value. Therefore, the project budget requires revision to allow for awarding of the construction contract. The life of the project budget exceeds the stated in the project bid as per the report. The conforming offer made by Hutchinson Builders is within the proposed revised allocated funds requested here in this project.
Thank you, Cherie. Questions to the officers?
Yes, thank you. Oh,
Councillor Grady? Yep.
thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a question. So with Hutchinson Builders, what was their start date if they were to receive this?
Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. I'll hand over to Brodie.
I'm just mindful of cyclone season coming up and supposed to be some sort of rain coming, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, correct. I think, well, the tender validity period, I believe, is within 90 days. I think Standard and Christie might be able to allude on that. We're still within that, so the contractor's submission and dates hold within that period. I think, yeah, we're still on track for this award prior to Christmas, and with a contract completion date around the 23 weeks, I believe, was in there. It still gets delivery within this financial year. Obviously, there is the risk we'll have to manage with them just around weather effects and effects on the schedule. So that is still a real risk that once we do have our preferred contractor engaged, we can start to deal with to look at how we can better mitigate that.
And my other question was, thanks for that, have all the tenants in those buildings in the main street, the shop owners, been notified?
Yeah, we've done a piece through our comms engagement team early on, once the designs were nearing completion, just to let them know of the upcoming works, what they were going to look like. Out of this meeting, once we've got these execution dates and mobilisation dates better known, again, we'll make contact with all those affected businesses and start to give them that micro level of detail around when access and all their premises might be affected. So yeah, we've recognised that stakeholder engagement is going to be a large piece of this works, and working with our internal teams accordingly.
Great, thank you. I can see Councillor Trevor applauding this, for the reason being he said he was going to bring his roller skate coming down the street, skateboards.
Thanks, Councillor O'Grady. Can I just confirm this is just for stage one of the work? Is that's correct? Stage one, and then I think there was 4 stages potentially. And do we know, or we haven't got any idea of what the those further stages are going to cost subsequent to this?
Yeah, so you are correct. This contract is solely looking at the stage 1 works, which is between the William and Rosebery block for council. So there's been concept design developed in the same vein of this footscaping for the further blocks down towards Tank Street. So we've got concept design estimates for those at the moment. I think those will work into our forward year budgets to further progress those designs and potentially lead into construction should council adopt those projects.
Thank you. Have we got any other questions to the officers?
Just a point of clarification, and you've made reference to it in your report, which is the life of the project. What was the life of the area? Do we know what the life of the area that currently is? If I remember correctly, there was a whole refurbishment done in the called City Heart development, which was the CBD redevelopment. So I suppose just on public record, what life did we get out of that? And now we're proposing to do this project. What life in your professional and technical expertise consider we would get for the life of this project when it's done?
For these sort of footpath sort of concrete structures, you'd typically be looking at a 50-year design life nominally. The underlying water mains on the footpath, which are within the scope of this contract, I think it's typically around your 80-year design life for those pipe assets. I couldn't speak to the life of the existing footpath structures and that were when that work was done.
Yeah, I'm quite satisfied with 50 years. Thank you.
Just adding to your comment about the footpath, so it'll be the same sort of tiling and whatever else as the top part of where the development was?
So by are you referring to the more recent foot upgrade that's been done?
Referring to the tiling and whatever else that's on this side of Rosella Street. No, is that right?
It's about Library Square and that area,
yes.
Councillor O'Grady.
Yes.
So the previous upgrade works down this end.
Yeah, as long as it ties in with the look of it, that's all.
Yeah, you'll have noticed there's been a recent section just that the forecourt area there that's been done as the coloured street, so the footpath for the remaining section of the block will be consistent with that.
Brody, you're just breaking up a little bit there.
And so the design for the new concrete section's consistent with that, which is currently across the road from the main 101 Goondoon Street building. So there's a number of sections of new coloured concrete footpath just associated with that forecourt development, and the design is consistent with that.
Thank you.
Oh, good. If there's no further questions, can I get a mover of the motion? Moved, Councillor Branthwaite, just moving the officer's recommendation.
I certainly am, Mr Deputy Mayor. Move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And seconding, Councillor O'Grady. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried. If we can get Councillor Hanson, and Trevor back, and I believe moving on to item G/5, councillors' reports. There's no written councillors' reports. Everyone's...
Yeah, thank you. I'd like
Councillor
to just
Grady?
just like to say Airbeats is on this weekend, so I hope everybody has bought their tickets, and the price is per box, not per person, so there's been a little bit of misunderstanding. So I'd like to see a lot of people there. There's a few left, I believe, so grab your tickets today.
Absolutely. Shepherd, I think, playing. Beautiful. We've got, there being no other councillor reports, there's no urgent business, no notices of motion, and no confidential items. So I declare the meeting closed at 51 minutes past 11. Thank you.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify. Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations